our esteemed colleague Scott Burns. Wrote a
Yeah.
story for Record Sport Online regarding Daizen Maeda, and any Celtic fans hoping that he'd maybe changed his mind, wanted to stick about in Glasgow a little bit longer. It doesn't look like that's the case.
Well, yes, according to Scott, and we've got no reason to doubt his information is usually absolutely spot on, and I'm sure this is as usual. Um, it seemed to me from reading between the lines in the story that someone around Daizen Maeda's camp is happy for the news to get out there that the player might be starting to agitate a little bit as the January window edges closer. Um, I'm not greatly surprised by that. We all know now the situation. It's been a long sort of running issue in terms of Daizen Maeda looking to get away, looking to do something new, interested in him from England. I think in the summer, as Burnsy said in his story, I think I'd heard at the time as well. I think there was heavy interest from the Bundesliga. So I think there are options for Daizen Maeda, which, according to Burnsy's report tonight, suggests that these options haven't gone away. They remain live, and the conversations remain active and ongoing, heading towards the January transfer window. Um, Now, that feels to me like a little bit of manoeuvring by agents and advisors, just saying, look, you kept him there pretty much against his will for the last at least one window, possibly two. You can't do that again because you're just going to have a really unsettled player in your hands.
Yeah.
And I think there's been signs, and I think Celtic fans have seen it for themselves. I don't think they're getting the best version of Daizen Maeda so far this season. So if they're agitating and trying to apply a bit of pressure, well, it's interesting to see what the club does about that. Obviously, Celtic have got decisions to make as well in terms of more pressing decisions on who the manager's going to be heading into that January transfer window, whether or not he has an influence on the buying and selling and the player trading model, who knows? But it's certainly an option that Celtic could do without right now because they've got so many issues, haven't they? Ongoing issues with injuries and key men not being available for selection. They don't have a permanent manager. This is just another thing to add to the sort of malaise around Celtic. So there's a lot of work to do for Celtic to come out of this in a better place, and to be able to lay down a real credible title defence. Because they just don't have their issues. Every day there seems to be something else that's causing a wobble or a concern within the club, and the fact that Daizen Maeda's people are now sort of bumping their gums a little bit in the background. Yeah, there's just another one to add to the list.
In the comments, John says Dyson wanted to move in the summer. If he doesn't want to beat Celtic, let him move in January. He's been a great servant, but not every Celtic fan, Keith, has seen it as that way. George says, let Maeda go. He's down tools. We all can all see that apart from his pace. He has brought zero to the team so far this season. David says Maeda doesn't possess the skills required to play in a top 5 league. In my eyes, if he leaves, he's not welcome back.
I think he's been you're always going to get this. Again, here we go. You get the extreme response from supporters, which is perfectly understandable, especially when it's a guy that's a fan's hero and he's done so much for the club. You're always going to get that. It feels like a betrayal. It's not quite like that in the professional game. These guys are in it to make a living, essentially. We've all seen how close Daizen Maeda is, what a phenomenal family man he is. If there's an opportunity here for him to move on and to look after generations of the Maedas,
Maedas. Mini
then
Maedas, if you will.
you can't blame him, can you?
No.
But I understand that doesn't take away the sort of feelings that the Celtic fans will have that this guy might have been agitating, that he wasn't as committed to the cause as they would have expected. I think he has been up until this season, where I think there's been a noticeable drop off now. For whatever that reason is, we don't know. You'd need to get inside Daizen Maeda's head for that. But there is a fair chance that this sort of protracted hokey cokey around is he in or is he out isn't helping matters in terms of keeping them settled and keeping them focused. And if somebody out there, and we do believe that it is the case, that somebody out there, at least one club, is dangling a big fat carrot in front of them, it's going to act as a distraction. The question is, how determined are these clubs, and how far are they prepared to go? What does a bid for Daizen Maeda look like? What does it constitute in January? Um, because the sums need to make sense for Celtic as well as for Daizen Maeda
Yeah,
before business can be done. And also that would then be, you lose Kyogo in one January window, and you lose Daizen Maeda in the next January window, and where are the replacements?
yeah,
And who's in charge of making sure that when the window opens, if they do want to press the button and sell Daizen Maeda, they better hope that they've got at least one striker and at least one winger and a number of other various positions sorted out in advance, because I don't think that Celtic can even think about coming out of yet another transfer window in a weaker state than they were going into
aye,
it. Because the Celtic fans, I think we can all see from the reaction, they're expecting at the very least a real strong January window to make up for the mistakes that have been made in the previous ones.
yeah. David in the comments says Maeda should speak to his friends that left for a bigger club, i.e. Kyogo. And Paul there, P. McLaughlin says, I can't see Maeda moving now with the World Cup on the horizon. I must admit, I did think that perhaps with the World Cup, and how much the Japanese players care about the World Cup, maybe he wouldn't want the turmoil of moving mid-season, but Scott Story today says otherwise.
Look,
Um,
money
that's it.
talks, and also Daizen Maeda, he is in a more comfortable position than Kyogo was in that regard, in that he was, almost 10 times out of 10, you would expect to see his name in the starting lineup for Japan.
Yeah,
Um, he's really consolidated his position as a starter, and there are others, including Kyogo, who I think took that risk to move on in order to try and maybe upgrade their chances of getting an international regular starting place, or just to fill the bank account. I don't know, whatever you fancy better.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there are decisions that look as if they're going to have to be confronted and dealt with over the coming weeks. And at a time when you've got your Cameron Carter-Vickers, Alistair Johnson, um, they bring Callum
Osmond.
Osmond, yeah. They find a place for him eventually, and he looks as if he might be a bit of a ticket. And he breaks down. There's just problems everywhere Celtic look right now.